Hey everyone, welcome back. This is episode 145 of my brand new Comics Haul series where I show you guys the new books that I pick up at my LCS every week. Big week for me this time around. I've got 7 issues, 3 from Image, which I'll start out with because we got a big release from them this week, and then 4 from Marvel, so just getting right into it here. Another big January release here. It feels like we've kind of had a lot of big releases in January over these first few weeks, which is surprising because I feel like it's usually a slower month, but we've got Cobra Commander #1. So this is part of the Energon universe. This is the 4th title now that we've had launched in here. It's the G.I. Joe side of things, but Energon universe is covering Void Rivals, Transformers, Duke was the new other G.I. Joe title that just came out. And like all the other Energon universe stuff that's come out so far, I'm going into this completely blind. It is pretty new reader friendly for the most part so far. It was easy to read Duke, a little bit harder to read Transformers, not having any knowledge of that, but I'm hoping that this will be a good jumping on point also. As far as I know, Cobra Commander is like the main villain of the G.I. Joe universe. So we'll see what Joshua Williamson, who's the writer here, is going to be building up. I will be doing a review of this one if I can find the time tonight, so look out for that one, just a quick non-spoiler review, if I can get around to reading it fast enough. And the artwork is looking okay in here, maybe a little bit cartoonish, so I'm not sure how I feel about that yet, but I'll have to read the issue. And yeah, I'm not sure how involved this is going to be in G.I. Joe lore that's already existed or whatever, so you guys will have to fill me in on Cobra Commander's whole situation in like pre-existing G.I. Joe stuff down in the comments. But yeah, looking forward to this one. Not sure what to expect, but we'll see about that. Next up from Image Comics, this one has been really good so far. The Deviant #3. So this is, I think, going to be 9 issues. It's Christmas themed, but it is going to be coming out monthly across the whole rest of the year. Only a couple issues came out during the Christmas season, which was a little weird, but this is James Tynion IV. Anything that he's writing these days is going to be a big deal. The artwork is by Joshua Hickson, who I'd never read anything by before, but almost like kind of a simplistic art style, but some really good colors, and I like how they do these crazy title pages on every single issue. It's always a double page spread. Yeah, you can like barely read it there, right? The Deviant, but then there's like this snowy forest. It's always something a little bit creative like that for their title pages, and it's about this like serial killer that dresses up as Santa Claus and has a history of killing people, and about this comic book writer that's been like interviewing his, I guess, like people that have been accused of being the killer as well as like the victims of the killer, to try to create this comic about him. So it's kind of reflective of James Tynion like as a writer, his experience as a comic book writer, and it's also just entertaining, good horror story as a whole. Big recommendation from me so far. That's Deviant. Next up, though, the last Image comic I picked up this week. This was Kill Your Darlings #5. Another pretty big recommendation. It's maybe been slowing down a little bit for me over the last couple issues, but it has a really strong concept. It's about this little girl who I guess has only been at a young age for the first couple issues, right? She's now more of a teenager in the more recent ones, but it's about her like imaginary world that she would go into to kind of escape the troubles of her actual life, living with a single mom who was like struggling financially. But she ended up burning her own house down because her imaginary world kind of intervened with the real world in an interesting way, and now we've seen her going into her imaginary world and it being taken over by this kind of darkness. And I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with this. I think I saw recently actually that it's ending with #8, so maybe they didn't sell enough copies to quite do what they wanted with this one, or that might have already been the plan. So I'm not sure, but I'll stick around with it till the end. It's a writing debut from these guys who do podcasts that I like to listen to, Parker and Sheridan. So yeah, recommendation from me. That's Kill Your Darlings. Next up, though, I've got 4 issues from Marvel, like I said, so let's start it off here with a big release from them this week, Avengers Twilight #1. This is just going to be 6 issues, it's just a mini-series, but it's Chip Zdarsky coming back to Marvel for probably the first time in, I want to say, almost a year. I know his Daredevil run ended a little while ago now, and I don't think he's doing anything else for Marvel. This is like a future look at what the Avengers will be like in a world where people have lost hope, where people don't want heroes anymore. So we'll see what the context is here. It's Daniel Acuna doing the artwork, and I want to say he hasn't done any interior stuff, at least for Marvel, in a long time. Looking like there's some pretty vibrant colors in here, and I'm just interested to see what they do with this. I know it centers around like an older Steve Rogers that has to take up the mantle again in some way. And I really don't have much more than that to say. I mean, I'll be going into this pretty blind. We know that Chip Zdarsky is good at like alternate universe, kind of interesting like lifespan of heroes type stuff, like what he did with Spider-Man Life Story. So I'm expecting something kind of similar to that. We've got a backup story in here, which looks like a reprint of maybe like a What If or something like that. Not sure why they have this in the back, but yeah, looking forward to this one also. Next up, we've got another team book, actually. It's X-Men. This is #30. Good cover here by Joshua Cassara, but this is tying into the fall. The House of X is now what they're calling Fall of X, it has kind of switched titles. Now we're really in like the end game era of the Krakoan era. Now that we have the Fall of the House of X and Rise of the Powers of 10 going on simultaneously as like all the other already ongoing titles. So that's a lot different than how it was when the original I'm getting the titles confused. When the original House of X and Powers of 10 came out, those were the only two X-Men titles, right? Which I guess is kind of a risk on Marvel's part because they usually like to have a lot of X-Men titles being pumped out. But we're keeping these going during that whole Fall of X event. Looks like some guest art in this issue, maybe. And I'll be interested to see what they do with this side of things. I guess this is probably just kind of a companion to the main event. Telling the stories of like some of the side characters, whatever's going on with ongoing X-Men members that Jerry Duggan has built up over his run. I started back up with X-Men stuff with Fall of X, so there's kind of a lot of stuff that I don't have very much context on, like whatever's going on with Cinch and X-23 right now, which it looks like this issue is going to be diving into. I know they went into the Vault and had to do with the Children of the Vault and everything, who had like a tie-in to Fall of X. So there's still a lot I'm missing out on, but I do get the general gist of the Fall of X event from reading the main titles. I'm liking Ms. Marvel as a member of the team. I was not a fan of her death and resurrection, just as kind of just a way for Marvel to resurrect her as a mutant and start promoting that to connect with the MCU or whatever. But I do like her as an X-Men member, even if they got to it in kind of a scummy way. That's X-Men number 30. Next up, another team comic, like kind of Marvel's three main teams came out today. But we've got Guardians. This is number 10. Another cool cover here. This one has been one of my favorite Guardians runs over the last few years. I've been really liking Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing's take on the team. Kev Walker is the artist on here, who I feel like has been easily doing his best work on this series. It's kind of a simplistic art style in a lot of ways, but there's these really crazy like action sequences with the whole team in space and intergalactic battles and stuff. It feels like the scope is really wide. Like this page is a good example, and the artist does that really well. This has had to do with Grootfall. This entire arc has been a long-lasting one. Usually Marvel arcs are like 6 issues or less, but this has been carried out across many issues since it's such a big idea, where Groot is turned into this world-eating entity, and the Guardians are getting to the bottom of what his actual intentions are, trying to get back their friend, and it's turned into this whole intergalactic war that they're in the center of. This is supposed to be like the, I think, penultimate issue, at least of the story arc, maybe of the whole series, because next issue is going to be a Guardians annual that's like wrapping up the whole Grootfall arc. I'm not sure why they couldn't have just made it be number 11 in the actual numbering of the series, but we don't have anything solicited after that as far as I know. So this might be wrapping up, which I'll be sad to see. I guess maybe they didn't do quite well enough as they were hoping to, numbers-wise, on selling this series. But it is a recommendation from me, whether or not you've heard too much about it. It's been pretty good. Lastly, though, the final issue I picked up from Marvel, the last issue I got this week, was Miracle Man: The Silver Age number 7, which is the last issue of this series. I know that Neil Gaiman also has a Dark Age planned, so Miracle Man: The Dark Age should be coming out at some point in the near future. These last few issues of this series took a really long time to release, though. I'm not sure whether it has to do with Mark Buckingham's schedule, because I know that he's also illustrating Fables right now, that new, they brought that series back to DC, and he's doing the art on that. But I've been really liking this. There's not much to keep up with, luckily, plot-wise, so it's not like you forget everything, even when they take a few months to put an issue out. I did like a whole Miracle Man deep dive before I picked up this series. I read the original Alan Moore stuff and did research on the character and everything, who has a really interesting history. I might make like a video about that at some point. But Neil Gaiman is, of course, a great writer, good comics writer, exploring like what Miracle Man's utopia in the modern era is like and what effect that has on everybody who lives in it. And I'm curious what the Dark Age is going to be. That's supposed to be the ending to his run. He had some kind of like trilogy idea from the very start, but it's taken him a long time to actually put it out with licensing issues and everything. So we'll see about that one. That's Miracle Man: The Silver Age number 7. But those were the 7 issues I picked up this week. I want to know what you guys got, though. Did you have a big new comic book day like me? Which issues are you looking forward to? Down in the comment section below. And that's about it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.